Good evening. Welcome to everybody. We thank our viewers for participating in this very interesting conversation that we'll have with the chairman of the Private Sector Commission, Mr. Komal Singh. The Guyana Dialogue has been put together by a group of Guyanese resident in the United States, Canada, UK, the Caribbean, and Guyana. Our main purpose is to provide valid, solid, empirical data on government policies and programs. And today we are very happy to get an insight into Budget 2024 by a distinguished son of Guyana, Mr. Komal Singh. So it's my pleasure now to introduce him to the audience. Mr. Komal Singh, welcome. We are very happy to have you. I know you're very busy. You're very, apart from being the chairman of the Private Sector Commission, you also have a big company to manage. But before begin to ask you questions about the budget, I would like you to say a little about your business. Let the Guyanese, especially overseas, know what you're doing in the struggle to make Guyana a better place. You're a big employer of people, etc., and these massive investment projects. So people are to get a good knowledge of this. So if you can please proceed along that line.
Dr. Singh, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to participate in this program. It's indeed a pleasure and an honor to talk to you and talk to our viewers um, on what is taking place in Guyana. But like you requested, um, Geico Construction is a company that we have formed way back in 1992. We're in business over 30 years now. Our business spanned from civil work construction, dredging. We have a huge marine fleet that supplies services for material movement within the Demerara River. We also offer oil spill response services. We do a lot of civil work, deep foundation work around the country. In the oil and gas sector, over the last 4 years, we have been working very closely in the sector to help develop that sector and not just that sector, but Guyana at large from a civil work standpoint. Um, we have created tremendous amounts of consortium over the last 5 or 6 years in an effort to grow our company to bring the technical skills and expertise that is required to meet the growing demand of the market. As such, we have created partnership with over 7 or 8 companies across the world from different countries. We have created a huge consortium with a Finnish company, Guyana Shore Based Inc., and we have formed a brand new company called Sustainable Environmental Solution. That company works directly with Exxon. We were fortunate to work directly with Exxon. We offer all services in terms of treatment of all hazardous waste that comes off the rig through that facility. That is one of the most top of the line facility in the region that is very environmentally friendly. Um, Geico continues to be the company that um, be very proactive in the market. We try to employ Guyanese as much as possible. Our company right now proudly stand here with 100% Guyanese local content. Um, we try to make sure that we try develop small contractors who are willing to work and develop themselves. We offer the necessary skill set and training that is required for our employees so that at the end of the day, our employees can see promotion within our organization. We're proud to say that most of our workforce that we have, our core workforce, is with us over 20 years now. We look forward to working with the government, with the people of Guyana, to develop this wonderful country of ours. Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much. Let me introduce you now to our panelists. Professor Manuram Budu, who is a professor of engineering at Arizona, and he's
Hello.
a civil engineer by profession. He has written several books, and he's gone to several countries to give lecture on engineering work, etc. My next panelist is Professor Narayan Prasad. Um, he's formerly from a place called Art Settlement, West Coast Province.
Hmm.
And he was not until recently a full professor at, was it California, Florida professor? Yeah, he specializes, I said, in social area, in sociology, psychology, etc. And the final panelist is Dr. Ganga Ramdas, who is the former head of the Department of Economics and International Relations at Lincoln University, Pennsylvania. When he was living in Guyana, he was in charge of a desk at the Bank of Guyana. So these are the gentlemen who will interact with you, and we hope that we can have a very stimulating conversation or discussion. But before I go on to them, I just would like, training is very critical for the development of Guyana now. And last week, I watched the vice president was making a comment that University of Guyana really got to change its focus a bit and focus more on technical skills education, etc. And some people regard it as a criticism of the university, etc. Today, Dr. Leslie Ramsamy wrote a response to two MPs, Mr. Kemraj Ramjatan and Ms. Corita MacDonald, who actually suggested the government is not paying enough attention to UG and they prefer to focus on goal and the Tibet programs that they have. But the private sector, I read somewhere, you are also involved in training as well. If you want to comment on that.
Yeah, thank you very much, Doc. Look, the the comment that was made there, I don't think it was a negative comment or the intent was negative. Um, we have been speaking in the private sector for the longest while, and we're talking currently with the University of Guyana and the Ministry of Education from the private sector to see how we can collaborate to help develop or people that are coming out to University of Guyana to meet the growing demand of the industry. University of Guyana is doing a pretty good job right now, but we need to make sure that the students that are coming out there when they finish their degree program, they're aligned with what is needed in the market. So one of the private sector tasks this year, we are hoping that we can have a little bit more conversation in that regard, and maybe even at the secondary school level. So when students are attempting to decide on their career path, they understand what is the demand in the market and what are some of the technical skill set that is required in the market, so that when they go to university and they come out to university, there is jobs out there for them, and we don't have a situation where students are coming out to University of Guyana, and because they're not the requisite skill set that is needed here, they end up going outside of Guyana. We end up having brain drain, and we cannot afford that at this point in time. The growing demand right now, the gold program that was being adopted by government, it's an excellent program to help bring more people into the arena. We are behind time right now when it comes to developing the skill set that is required for the market. So we have no time to waste right now. The more we can offer training, the better. The private sector and many businesses around our country, we have seen over the last 2 or 3 years, many companies have actually started offering training in different areas, different skill set. If you're looking right now for engineering Guyana, health and safety personnel in Guyana, it's so difficult to find them. And the only thing we can do at this point in time is make sure that we have a lot more training programs available to bring those unskilled workers to an environment where they can get themselves trained and meet the demand of the market. So for me right now, those comments should not be seen as a criticism. When people say we need to align ourselves with the University of Guyana, the private sector and the university needs to make sure that we're aligned with what is coming out of university to make sure that when they get into the workplace environment, they have the requisite technical skill set.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I put you on now to Professor Rambudu.
Hello, Komal. How are you doing today?
Not bad, Professor. How are you doing?
Okay. Now, is the private sector commission an arm of the government or is it an independent body?
The Private Sector Commission is an independent body. The Private Sector Commission represents all the other BSOs around the country and all the other sectoral organizations around the country. It's an independent organization that deals strictly with cross-cutting issues that affect businesses in Guyana.
Mhm. Now, could you inform our viewers the process the PSC, the Public Service Commission, uses to evaluate the 2024 budget, and what did you guys find?
The 2024 Budget 2024, in our view, is a true representation of the commitment of government to develop this country at a pace that is never seen before, in a manner that is people sensitive, private sector driven, with great care to make sure that our country is developed in a sustainable manner. We also recognize that the budget caters for every single Guyanese, businesses, every sector, every villages across the length and breadth of this country. When you analyze the budget carefully, one will recognize that the budget has a lots of direct measures to increase the wider population's disposable income, both directly and indirectly. We also recognize that a lot of care was taken in the many programs that are included in the budget to make sure that they are strategic in keeping with our developmental strategic plan to better the life of our citizens and growing this economy in an environmentally friendly and sustainable manner. Budget 2024, in our view, when analyzed, has a lot of potential to develop our country. It has a lot of opportunity for businesses to grow and develop also. It also have a lot of opportunities to make sure that our people develop their skill set that is needed in this country. And I can go on. The list goes on that there.
Yeah, but could you give us say two or three things that you really like about this budget, where Guyanese will have more opportunities to uplift their lives?
But we can touch on, I mean, I will give you just about two of them, but there's so many in this budget.
Mhm.
Somebody phone is on.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
yeah, Pandit.
When you, if you look at the supporting vulnerables in our society, and I'll
Uh,
start with that, because there's a lot of conversation around that. The increase in old age pension rate, when looked at individually, one will say it's a small number. But when you take it from a macro position, when you look at 2.7 billion contributing to almost 76,000 persons within our economy, it adds value. And we cannot look at any one of these initiatives in isolation because there's a whole host. Public assistance also increase, that's going to benefit another 35,000 people. I care for people and students, spectacles allowances, those are just for the vulnerables. But when you look at the macro side from an agriculture
Omar is
and
not part.
housing,
Omar is not part of anything, though, so I don't know. Uh,
somebody need to
he,
mute.
he can just be about the two of them. Alan and Brittany.
Doc, you need to mute your
All right.
phone.
Yeah, I think we lost him.
Yeah, on agriculture and food security.
Mhm.
There's a 2025 mission writing to reduce our food import bill by 25% by 2025.
Mhm.
The government allocation of a $97.6 billion in the agriculture sector. It's enormous. It will create a lot of opportunities for investors, especially in the soya and corn area that we have seen over the last 2 years. The amount of development that is taking place in that mega farming area. Currently, we're producing soya and corn, but we still not, maybe in another 2 years, being able to satisfy our local market. And that's a huge area right now that is opening up more and more opportunities for investors in the agriculture sector.
Mhm.
Okay, Professor Narayan. Professor Narayan.
Can hear me? You can hear me now?
Yes, yeah, yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. One of the contentious issue within recent times is the distribution of oil resources to Guyanese citizens. What is your opinion on the opposition claim that monies need to be distributed to Guyanese?
Look, if you're referring to statement that has been making from time to time from different section of society, saying that cash should be given to individual, um, coming from all revenue. We from private sector, we're not in view of handouts. We are of the view that the money that is being generated in the oil and gas sector should be put in a manner where it creates development for this country, it creates sustainable development, and it creates an environment where the wider population can benefit not just for today, but for tomorrow. We have seen over the last 2 or 3 years since government started taking money, all the money to invest in this country, we are very confident that those money are being placed on projects that are sustainable, that are catering for the development needs of our people, that also caters for the development needs of the business sector. They're very strategic project, and we're very happy to know that and see that these money are not being spent haphazard, but it's being done with careful analysis on a strategic plan that's going to benefit us in the long term and not in the short term.
Yeah, and the given given Guyana's demographic structure, you mentioned involvement in the rural areas. How active is your organization involved in the rural areas in terms of trying to develop or to have relationship, public-private relationships in the development of, you know, a
Our
more equitable development of the
and
people?
it's a very appropriate question. I can safely say to you right now that the private sector, we have successfully have a chamber or an arm of private sector, um, in all the regions of this country. All right. And the Private Sector Commission have been working with those chambers very closely. We have a program rollout for the first quarter of this year to go into each one of those regions and meet with the chambers and their membership and other businesses to see what are some of their issues they have, what are some of the challenges, and how the private sector can help to eradicate those challenges and make them lives better and develop them. And also, at the same time, to make sure that they can also capitalize on the opportunities that are emanating as a result of the growth in our economy.
A
Yeah,
follow-up question, Professor.
yeah. Your role is very crucial, and you mentioned that the linkages you can have at the University of Guyana. Have you any input into the kind of education that is more amenable to the Guyanese situation right now? You know, given that University of Guyana, the way it was funded was like production of teachers and things like that. But the economic structure of the country has changed tremendously. So I was wondering your input into the totality of the education offerings at the university.
Look, you will agree with me, Professor. University of Guyana have given out over the years a lot of high level quality students, especially in the engineering and technology section. We have seen some of those engineers coming out there, and they're very successful. In our company ourselves, we have engineers, who came out from University of Guyana. They're successful, and I'll tell you why they're successful in our view. The 1 year that they have to spend in the field working and then go back to finish their final degree program, I think that 1 year stint is tremendous help to those individuals. What we would like to see is a lot more of these work program, during the holiday season for students that go into university. So when they finish their degree program and they come into the working environment, we don't have to start from ground zero to train them up. We need them to come out with a little bit more working experience. So I think somewhere along the line, we need to work with the university to see how we can help to collaborate to help get those students when they're off to bring them into the working environment so they get some more working knowledge prior to completing their degree program.
Mhm. Professor, you have a final follow-up?
No, I was just wondering. Yeah, you touched on something there, and I was concerned about internships because internships are very crucial in the development of the expertise of students over time. And and you mentioned that while they are still in college, that given the opportunity to or exposing them to employment opportunities will help in the development of qualified graduates once they leave the university. And I was wondering to what extent you see internship. You mentioned internship, but to what extent that internship needs to be facilitated more uh, to develop competent graduates.
Well, of recent, you would have, we would have seen a lot of companies, private companies, offering internship. Our company by itself, we're open to taking interns to work with us. A lot of students now starting to go to university part time and working. Those are excellent initiative. It's a lot more stress for them, but also it kind of rounded them when they get to the university when having some experience. I think the private sector needs to play a little bit more role here in working closely with university to offer internship to students who are maybe in their last year or the second to last year in the degree program. All right. So we have our role to play while the university again is doing what they have to do. I think the private sector also has a role to play to help develop those students prior to them qualifying and getting out to university.
Thank you very much. Now over to Dr. Ganga Ramdas.
Hello, Mr. Komal Singh. I'm very impressed that you have a skills and training program under your belt there with the PSC. That's unique. I was wondering whether you also have any entrepreneurship type of training within coming out of your organization or supported by your organization.
The private sector, and that's an excellent question, is very timely also. Private sector is also working right now to create a help desk in the private sector commission, a technical help desk to help those small and medium-sized businesses or individuals who wants to get some sort of knowledge on how to develop themselves. For example, applying for loan to the bank or applying for any sort of business development that they want to with partnerships and consortium. The help desk that we're putting together in another month from now will help support those small businesses and individual in a very big way. We've never had it before, but I think this initiative that we've just rolled out is one that's going to assist a lot of these companies and individual to help develop themselves, to meet the demand of the market. We still have a lot of people who are still scared of creating partnership and consortium, but with the size of our market and our economy at this point in time, it is very critical for companies and individuals to find strategic partners and collaborate. We should no longer see ourselves as competitor. We should see ourselves now as strategic business partner working together with the size of the market that we have. So yes, the private sector will be working assertively right now to make sure that we support those small businesses and individuals to develop their skill set.
Yeah, that that's that's excellent. We're fortunate to have you with the experience in river transportation. We have lots of opportunities on road transportation, but we also have in the river transportation. I understand some of the river transportation up the river, moving lumber and other fuel materials that fuel the sugar estates. I think that's been minimized right now because of the closure. But there are a lot to be learned in the movement using barges and ships up the river and so on. So, in the area of public transportation, let's take roads or let's take river. Are you having any projects there?
The You touch on river, and I'll stay a little bit on river transportation or country and movements of goods and services, because in a developing country like ours right now, where we have a lot of stuff that is not easily accessible by road, where we want to keep our or operating costs down, moving cargo by river um, can assist significantly in that regard. Now, as you will agree and aware, Guyana faces a significant siltation issue in all our river. All right. We have restriction in draft because of siltation, and because of that, these vessels are not coming in with large enough cargo to allow us to have economies of scale. And this is both for international vessel and inland vessels that traversing within our waterway. Over the next couple of years, we definitely need to develop this sooner than later. We've seen government taking some initiative right now to start looking at how we can dredge these river, how we can make it more easily accessible. If we can do that, we're going to bring goods and services costs down significantly, both within and coming from abroad. As it relates to public transportation, the congestion that we see on our roadway right now will reduce significantly when those four-lane projects that governments have initiated come on stream in another couple of months. Um, but as it relates to bringing public transportation, buses and stuff like that, that's a different conversation that really needs to be looked at some point in time. But because of where our populations are lie right now, where everybody goes to Georgetown, um, taking big buses in Georgetown can pose a little issue at this point in time. But I think at some point in time down the future is something that definitely needs to be looked at.
Any further question, Dr.
Yeah.
Ganga?
Yes, among the 70 billion assistance to businesses and individuals, there is 10 billion for part-time jobs in the government's part-time jobs program. Do you have any connection or relationship with that program, and how can it be enhanced to move the students or the participants from part-time to full-time?
Well, the part-time job programs that is running right now by government, it caters a lot for single parents. Some the students also, but the student is not in a big amount of people that enjoying that at this point in time. Most of the students who take part-time jobs are maybe within some of the public sector and the private sector. But on that part-time job program that is running right now, that caters for a lot of single parents, female that is sitting at home right now. So when you look at the amount of disposable income that is being generated as a result of those part-time program, it is significantly assisting families around our country at this point in time.
Okay, Professor
Dr.
Buru,
Tara, if I could just ask this
okay, go
one
ahead. Go
quickly.
ahead.
How do you see the wage gaps between the public and private sector, and what's your opinion on that?
Well, Doc, I'll tell you something. Over the last year, wages and salaries have gone up by almost 50% minimum. So our people are enjoying better wages in this country right now. And as a result of better wages, obviously they end up having more disposable income in their pocket. We have also seen in the private sector, we're actually losing engineers to government department right now. So in some cases, the wages and salaries that are paid for some of the skilled employee in the government sector is almost higher in some instances. And as such, we're losing employees to government. We've also seen from the private sector that we've lost a lot of employees into the oil and gas sector. And again, losing employees into the oil and gas sector is a good thing for our employees. All right. But it also creates a gap and a vacuum that we need to fill. And that is why we have no choice at this point in time to find ways and means of filling that gap very swiftly. If not, we can have serious implication in some of these sectors. If you look at the construction sector right now, the construction industry is short of over 100,000 workforce right now. And with 1.1 trillion dollar budget 2024, when you looked at the amount of labor force and manpower resource that will be required to execute projects and other areas in 2024, we can put a lot more strain on our manpower resource if we don't work aggressively to develop the skill set of the people that we have here to meet the demand of those growing industry.
Okay, Professor Buru,
Thank
I
you.
would like
That's
you
good.
to comment further on the intern job on the job training that Professor Narayan raised with Mr. Komal Singh. I know you have a lot of ideas in that. Can you
Well,
please?
Tara, my ideas are probably more profound because
Okay,
I
well,
believe
state.
education, you have to restructure education completely from cradle to grave, and not only university, because what Guyana needs now is to align its development needs to the people that will they're educated. I don't think that is there as yet, but for that to happen with new technologies, the education system has to be restructured, right? And that has to start now, right? There are things like AI. For example, I know you are an engineer, and today we can engineer a structure using AI and walk through that structure very easily. You may have seen that, right? And you can see where faults are. So the type of training that is required, right, is completely different from what we have been doing before. They want to go through some structured course, put things in their head, then try and examine them exactly on that, because all human knowledge is on the palm of your hand at the moment, on that little device, right? So what are you going to put in the head of these people, right? You have to create an environment in which they are creative, right? When they can innovate, right? And our present education system doesn't have that, right? So you have to restructure everything, and that's not going to be very easy. It requires political will and significant changes, and all changes, of course, are very difficult, right? So that's my general comment on education. I can provide a lot more details on how this could be done, but this is not a forum for that. What I would like to ask you though is, in terms of development of Guyana investment, how easy it is to set up business in Guyana. For example, in New Zealand, you could take half a day and set up a business, and you're ready to go. How easy it is to do that in Guyana?
The ease of doing business in Guyana on a scale of 1 to 10 is up at 8.5 to 9 right now. Setting up
Mhm.
a business is not difficult. Within 1 to 2 weeks, you can have your registration in your hand. Um, it's a brand new company. The process is very simple um, to go through. It's not a difficult one right now. We still have the view. Maybe 2 weeks seems to be a little long,
Mhm.
but with the amount of requests and registration that is currently being thrown at the registry right now, it's a little challenge. But as it relates to the ease of setting it up, it's very easy to set up. Professor, I want to touch on one thing that you mentioned also, if you don't mind, on AI and digital technology. We need to move our market to a digital environment as quickly as possible. All right, government has been committed. We have seen a lot of conversation from a government level to move swiftly to bring our system up to that environment. And you're correct. The world is moving at such an aggressive pace right now. Technology is in the palm of every single person right now. The whole training and development right now needs to circle around that environment. And it's not an easy task. It's a long road ahead to train it, but it's a road that we must achieve. And with that, we need to make sure that we create stuff like our research and development department somewhere in this country, so that our students who are coming out, we can get them in there so they can start thinking for themselves, developing stuff for themselves for the benefit of Guyana. But that's a conversation for us to have later. But I can say to you, we in the private sector and recognize the need for that on an urgent basis.
Yeah, yeah. You see, my feeling is Ghana is in a unique opportunity, or unique time or moment in which it could be in the future rather than wait in the future to happen. Right? Having
Oh,
said that, I've heard complaints from members of the opposition that some small contractors are not getting jobs. In reality, the complaint is about discrimination. Is the complaint true? What is your advice to the diaspora on setting up a contracting business and position business for opportunities in Guyana?
look, I live here, and I'm no politician, but I'll say very straight up, there is enough work for every single contractors, every single person in this country right now. All right. There is a procurement. process that every one of us goes through. We win some, we lose some. All right. In my view, the process is very transparent. I've been saying this for decades. I have no bones with saying that the process is a transparent one. We have been tendering on jobs for the last 30 years. All right. And it's a fairly decent process that we need to follow. With the amount of jobs that is currently available in this country, no contractor in this country should be without a job. And I find it hard when I hear people saying that contractors are being discriminated. And when you look around the country, you see the president going to every single village. And every time he leaves that village, he creates an employment for some contractor, for some individual, by offering them some small jobs within that village. Um, I will be very open right now to say publicly, if any contractor in this country is saying they don't have jobs, we have job for you. Come to us and we will employ you. We will give you some contract work. And we challenge anybody, any individual in this country right now who also say that they don't have a job. Come to us. We will take you on. You don't need to have any experience. We will train you, but you must be willing to work. That's the criteria. You must be willing to work. This country has so much opportunity right now. No one should be complaining about opportunity and work and getting jobs in this country. That's my little bit to say on that matter.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Now, you mentioned about you need about 100,000 workers in the construction industry. Now, so at the moment, you don't ha- you do you have enough qualified and trained personnel? And you said but some training program. Is government involved with this?
Well, no, that's what I said to you earlier. We do not have enough skilled workers. If you look at, say, and I'll use the construction industry since it's a little easy to talk about that right now. If a contractor has about 4 or 5 projects around this country right now, he may be running around with one engineer to support him on those 4 or 5 projects. All right, and that's how bad it is. All right,
Mhm.
if you do a site visit and 4 different projects for him, you will see the same engineer going around with him. All
Mhm.
right. We need to have more training, and those are the training we're talking about, and those are the technical training that we're really looking for. All right. The the technical institute that they're now developing back in Warbeast, that's going to be a very, very significant help to help developing our people and the skill set that is required.
You speak about a Port Moran training
Port,
facility.
Port Moran training facility, yeah, it's going to be a top class facility.
Mhm.
And of
Now, I
course,
just
you,
want to go back to a point that Dr. Das mentioned about river transportation, and you mentioned about the dredging of the Marara River. Is there any work going on at Deep Harbor Port? You know, when I was in Guyana, and it was a long time ago, I advocated as an engineer for a Deep Harbor Port in the Essequibo, right? Is there any suggestion about having a Deep Harbor Port in Guyana?
There's still a conversation and an active conversation of developing a deep water port. Look, we cannot work right now, and if you give me a minute, Doc, I'll just talk quickly on something here.
Mm.
With the gas energy project that is currently on stream right now, that's one of the most transformative projects for this country. That project will bring significant benefit to every single sector, especially manufacturing sector. Now, in about 2 or 3 years from now, when the manufacturing sector gets up and running, we're going to be producing so much more than what we need locally. So we definitely need to start thinking ahead of the game to make sure that we have a robust regional logistic hub to make sure that we can move our goods and services freely and easily within the region. All right. We cannot survive right now without that logistics hub. As it relates to dredging, the Mara will continuously do dredging in the mouth of the river right now to maintain a 4.5 to 5 meter draft at the moment. But looking at the cost of freight these days, you all will agree with the challenges we've seen around the world right now. Freight cost is going up back again with the challenge through the Suez Canal. Now, we cannot afford to bring half of a vessel anymore in this country. We need to make sure we can bring larger vessel, and that is why the deep water port is so critical. All right, in a few years from now, we definitely need to have a deep water port to satisfy the growing demand that is taking place locally and in the region.
mhm.
Yeah, but I've suggested that Esquibo, you know, because I know that they have significant draft there for these larger vessels. Uh, to be considered as a deep harbor port. Is there a consideration for that? And of course, it will open up for all the goods and services from Brazil, right, into Guyana rather than through Venezuela. And
Well,
then all the beauty of Guyana is in Essequibo.
the deepwater port location, there's a lot of different views on where is the best location for a deepwater port.
Mhm.
Essequibo have not a very deep draft. The Essequibo have a lot of sand right now, so you have a lot of sand siltation, a lot of sandbank across the Essequibo. Um, but when you look at some of the development that is taking place, especially with the road going to Latem, and that will open up a whole host of opportunities with trading between northern Brazil and Guyana. When you look at the mega farming that is taking place on the upper Demerara Boris River, all right, if you take all of that in consideration, then your deep water port need to be very strategic to make sure that it can service those locations and those developments that are taking place from those areas. So that's what I'm saying. The location of the deep water port is one that needs to be looked at in detail, in more detail. Borbis and Essequibo are the two options for the deep water port, but which one is the best among the set right now is will be determined based on where some of the major projects that are coming on stream will be going.
Okay, I just want to bring you back to a question about the difficulty in doing business in Guyana. What's your relationship with Go Invest?
Go Invest right now, private sector and Go Invest have a very close relationship. We work very closely with Dr. Ramsroop and his team. Go Invest is that hub that links businesses, international businesses, to our local environment. If people want to understand what is happening in the local environment here, Go Invest is the government arm that they should be going to. Um, Go Invest has been very supportive to the private sector over the years. We have continuous only today. I had a long conversation with Dr. Ramsroop. We're scheduled to meet again next week to meet with a large amount of private sector members who have variant concern. So we have these conversations frequently with Go Invest to make sure that the concern of the business community and our business partners and investors are addressed in a timely manner through Go Invest.
Let me ask you this question. There are many foreign companies operating in Guyana now. Are they part of the PSC?
Some of the foreign companies who register locally, yes, they're part of the PSC. Not many of them. We were able to have maybe about 5 or 6 of them. A lot of them are part of the Georgian Chamber of Commerce, but we have been seeing over the last year many of those foreign companies that register locally are joining and becoming part of the private sector um, companies and bodies around the country.
Mhm. All right, Professor Narayan, to you.
Yeah, I have a comment and then a question, and
Go ahead.
I'd like your feedback on the comment. Indeed, Guyana is ripe for transformation, but given Guyana's history, in whatever area transformation it needs to take place, whether in education or whether in industries, it is not simple because given the population and when you look at the potential age-related um, appli- uh, potential for employment, Guyana does not have a tremendous source to draw from because the population is so small, and that population that needs the training. And also, given the fact that with the development of oil, with the discovery of oil, it has put Guyana on a fast paced development. So it becomes like a kind of bottleneck for the country to take on all of these transformative uh, aspects to fulfill the needs of the country right now. What is your thinking on that?
And you're spot on with that. The demand that suddenly dawned on us. Look, we were not fully prepared in since 2017. Um, We should have done a lot more knowing that oil and gas is coming. We should have been a lot more in a preparatory mode. However, we are now catching up. And because we're catching up and everything is happening at a fast pace, it is putting a lot of pressure on those things that you just mentioned, especially on the human resource capacity building, human resources in terms of employment, and making sure that we have the right skill set for the right job. Um, but we don't have a choice. We still need to work with the little bit of resource that we have, and we still need to make sure at the same time we have proper programs in place to help develop, so we don't be in this catch-up mode for the next 5 or 10 years.
You have a follow-up question, Professor?
Yeah, yes. Uh, you talk about you place emphasis on the industrial aspect of the country, the industrial needs of the country. What's your relationship with the agriculture sector?
I think I mentioned briefly earlier on the agriculture sector. Agriculture sector right now is growing tremendously. If you look at the last year growth rate in the agri sector and the projected growth rate in the agri sector, it is extremely high. But like the infrastructure and other sector, the agriculture sector also is short of technical people in those areas. And for that, we need to also make sure that we worked to have the requisite technical expertise. And let's talk about fertilization, for example. We still have a lot of people using the old primitive method of mixing fertilizer to do use in the farming. We need to move to more high-tech scientific fertilization so our farmers can have optimal performance out of the fertilizer they're using. And those are some of the things we need to elevate the fertilizer and the agriculture sector to, so that the agriculture sector can increase the yield per acre in everything that they do right now. And when you looked at the soya production up in Tacoma, one would never believe that you can actually grow up there. But the way these guys are farming up in Tacoma, it's high level scientific methodology they're using. They're using mega farming technology, and they're having high yield in spite of the environment that they're operating. So yes, we still have the challenge in the agri sector also, as it relates to technical expertise.
As you're in the agriculture sector, you have a comment to make. I see the sugar industry has made a good turnaround. You have any thought on that? Because the opposition was criticizing the government for subsidizing sugar by 5, 6,000 billion a year for the past couple of years, but they never seem to criticize Linden for the $4 billion a year
Electricity
subsidy
subsidy.
that they get. As a matter of fact, I calculated it. The per capita, the per capita subsidy, the Linden for Linden worker is far higher than the per capita subsidy for show workers. I had that published in an article in Guyana. Go ahead.
Look, we can't talk about the subsidy in the sugar industry without analyzing it carefully. When If we remove all the drainage and irrigation work that has been done through Gaisuku at this point in time, and if you take that budget and you put it on the National Drainage and Irrigation Board, you will recognize it's an enormous amount of money that has been spent to maintain drainage and irrigation around this country to satisfy our agriculture sector. So when we looked at the subsidy through the guys that is being given to Gaisuku, we cannot do so in isolation and look at it as though it's subsidy for the entire sugar industry alone. All right. The subsidies that are going into Gaisuku also helps the entire agriculture sector and the entire country at large, especially when it comes to drainage and irrigation.
Okay. You have a final question, Professor Naren?
No, I'll yield to Dr. Das.
Okay, Dr. Ganga.
Yeah, there is one thing that's been hovering and occupying my thoughts, and that is imports and the foreign exchange availability. How do you see that affecting the private sector in terms of credit to the private sector?
I don't think there's a direct impact on credit to the private sector. Um, we look, we're in a developmental state at this point in time. There's a lot of infrastructure project taking place as a result of that massive development that suddenly dawned on us and that is taking place. The demand for foreign exchange obviously will increase or would have increased. We have seen, we have to wait between maybe 1 to 4 to 5 days sometime to access fund. But guess what? The interbank, when you look at, and we have had meeting with central bank on this matter before, and when central bank looked at it on a daily basis from an aggregate standpoint, there is excess foreign exchange. But because some of the banks will have high demand and some will have low demand, while one bank may be short of foreign exchange, another bank may have some excess foreign exchange. So, if they have a little bit more interbank trading taking place, it can help ease up some of the shortages and the time that we've seen waiting. But look, in a growing development market that what we have right now, one would expect over the next couple of years, access to foreign exchange will be a little slow because of the heavy demand that is being placed on buying goods and services for the infrastructure and other development that is taking place.
Ganga, Dr. Ganga.
Just one last bit. Do you
Mhm.
have any thoughts on the FPSO and how that is funded, or any of the shipping assets that we have acquired so far?
I wouldn't comment too much on that. I know those are investment that is being made through Exxon at this point in time. I don't have the details as it relates to how they've been funded, but I do know that it's funded right now through the investment from them. How it's been paid back and what sort of payback methodology is around that. I don't have that information at this point in time, so I'll prefer not to comment on it at this point.
All right. Okay. We have the final rounds now. The final question. Let's start with Professor Buru.
Now, the question I have is about banking. I heard that banking in Guyana is still primitive. They haven't make use of the technologies. Is there, for example, cashless banking in Guyana or
Look,
cashless payment?
you can do payment. The cashless banking is not there as yet. Look, the banking system has evolved significantly. We still have a far way more to go.
Mm.
Um, we've continuously have conversation with the banking association to work with them to see how they can improve some of the stuff that they're having. We've been having conversation with central bank also to see how they can work with with the commercial bank to make sure that the banking aspect and the banking side of the industry is kind of being handled in a little bit more easy manner. So, opening up of a new account, for example, used to take a very long time. It's not that it's not taking a long time right now, but we have seen significant improvement as it relates to opening up of bank accounts. A lot of the stuff that used to be done using a bank book, getting back a copy of a return check and stuff like that, we have seen those stuff stop over the last year. You can now go and sign in online, view your account, view the checks that was cashed, etc. So we're getting there slowly. We're not where we want to be fully, but given what we have seen over the last year, I think the banking sector have actually recognized the need to improve and meet certain standard right now, especially from an international standpoint, given the fact that we have so many foreign investors who are coming in country right now, and we'll be looking for those high level quality services out of the banking system.
Mhm. Okay. Professor Narayan, your final
Yeah.
question.
One of the difficulties in transformation of any society is the conflict of values. Guyana is a traditional society for a long time. Do you see any type of resistance to a radical transformation so that the the population itself can be in line with the kind of initiatives that the government is undertaking right now?
Look, I will say that over the last couple of years, our people have been very sensitive and receptive to some of the changes that is required. Um, it's a cultural change we need to see in our society. with the massive transformation and what has happened over the last couple of years and where we're heading in the next 5 to 10 years, there need to be a lot of cultural shift and changes within our society. Our people gradually are adapting to it, especially on the health and safety, and I can speak on that to some extent. On health and safety, for example, we have seen a lot of our people, a lot of companies, a lot of businesses start being so sensitive right now as it relates to safety. Um, and that has been arising out of the oil and gas environment. So I think, when you take that as a benchmark right now, I will safely say that our people are very receptive to some of those changes. It's not going to happen overnight, it's a work in progress, but I'm confident we're going to get there.
Okay, Dr. Ganga, your final
Yes, I was
question.
wondering, how does the Public Service Commission monitor members' shipping costs not being passed on to consumers?
Look, there's no mechanism in place at this point in time to monitor um, those costs. One would expect that the shipping companies and the organization that are benefiting from those costs pass it on to the consumer. But the private sector commission right now has no proper data or proper system in place to monitor that information that you're requesting right now.
Mm. Okay, I wanted to ask you a question before the state of industrial relations, the whole question of union recognition and union the relationship with employee employer. You want to make a brief comment on that?
Sure. Look, the private sector bodies around our country, we encourage our workers to make sure that they have proper unions to represent their interests. We also encourage them to make sure that the union, instead of just collecting money, the union work closely with them to understand some of their concern and give them proper representation. I
Mm.
think there's a lot needs to be done to improve some of those relationship between unions and workers in country. The private sector has not been interacting too much with some of these issues that they're having publicly between unions and employees. But I think it's something going forward. We will need to start taking a close eye on to make sure that our employees who are paying union dues are properly represented by their union um, reps.
Okay, thank you very much. Um, I want to thank our panelists, Professor Munram Budu, Professor Narayan Prasad, Dr. Ganga Ramdas, and now Mr. Komal Singh, our guest. It was a real pleasure to have you. A very enlightened and informative discussion or conversation we had with you. You have cleared up many areas, and we'd like to have you back sometime in the future.
Thank you.
And we'll appreciate if you can make your final closing remarks. You can take 2 or 3 minutes for that.
Thank you very much, Doctor. I'm very honored to be part of this distinguished panel here this evening to talk about Guyana and the development of Guyana. But I want to say before I close that Guyana has almost double the amount of people in the diaspora around the world. With the skill set and the knowledge that is sitting in the diaspora around the world, I want to encourage everyone to come back, offer your services to Guyana. Guyana is in need of those skill sets at this point in time. Work through the diaspora unit at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to see how you can offer your services for the development of our country. Our country has been stagnant for decades now because of lack of access to funding. And as a result of that, a lot of the stuff we had wanted to do, we could not have done it. We now have an opportunity of a lifetime. We have an opportunity here where we have a government that is very focused in making sure that if the wealth that is being generated is passed on to every single Guyanese. And at the same time, we also have an opportunity to let our diaspora participate in the development that is taking place. So we should not look at the development here as a development that only people who live here should work towards. I want to encourage the diaspora to participate in the development. Um, Guyana is moving at a rapid pace right now. We need all hands on board to make sure that our country is developed, our wealth is being um, shared in a manner where our population or citizen at large benefits from it, not just for today, but for tomorrow. We want to also make sure that our future generation benefit from what is being given to us at this point in time through the oil and gas sector and the other sector. You would looked at last year final year results, and you will recognize that all the sector we have seen significant growth rate in each one of those sectors, and that tells you a lot of story. When you looked around the world, where you have oil and gas taking the lead into some economy, the other sector are lagging. We have the converse in Guyana. If you pull the oil and gas growth rate out of our equation, you will see all the other sectors showing significant growth rate. And those growth rates are projected to increase over the next coming years. So we are on the right track in Guyana. We have the right set of people that are working around us and panelists like you guys on these programs. These are value educational programs to our viewers who will look and listen and learn and understand what is happening in Guyana. And so, Dr. Sarah Singh, I want to thank you for having this program. I think this program is very insightful for the population, and I'll be more than happy to join with you at some other time in the future.
Mm.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And we ourselves have learned quite a lot from you, and we congratulate you on your achievements. I know recently you just opened your shore base where the president and the first lady was there. I
Yeah.
watched that program.
Oh,
So
thank you.
congratulations to you. That's another major achievement on your part.
Thank you very
Uh,
much.
to the viewers, Mr. Komal Singh is one of the biggest entrepreneurs in Guyana. A man who came from rags, from low down as a farmer, taxi driver, to reach this height is remarkable. You're a great role model to other people in Guyana. And we thank you and wish you
Thank
all the best in the future. Anyone who want to make a quick comment?
Yeah,
No,
go ahead, Dr.
Go ahead.
yeah, I think we have to remember that about 3 years ago, Guyana was an impoverished nation. Today, Guyana is a high income country. So within just about 3 years, the transformation that has been taking place, at least the relative transportation, has been mind blowing. And it is clear that the Public Service Committee or Commission is playing a vital role and is very happy with the trajectory which the government is taking. I think that's very forward looking for Guyana.
Mhm. Thank you, Professor Narayan.
Yeah, I was just going to say that the topics we covered are varied and they're informative. And I would like to thank Mr. Singh for really doing a great presentation and in keeping abreast with all sectors in the society so that people can see not only in one area but in the entire country what is happening.
Thank you, Professor. Dr. Ganga.
Yes, I must congratulate Mr. Singh for all of his accomplishments, especially as he has emphasized training and skills development. That's unique in terms of a function of PSC. Also, just while we're on this subject of water transport and so forth, I looked at the budget and found that we have drainage and irrigation earmarked. There is about 72 billion. But in there, we should include river banks because the risks are very high if we have canals that were supporting the riverbanks are plugged up. They need to be cleaned. If you go along the Demerara River, I know up the Diamond you had the 40 feet canal. We need to look at those because it could affect the private sector significantly. I don't know of all the other rivers, but and the backup canals. but we need to look at that to avoid flooding in the city and also in the villages all the way down to Craig and
Mm-hmm.
so on. So drainage and irrigation is very important, as you have pointed
Mm-hmm.
out earlier, and we need to look at riverbank protection as well.
Mm-hmm.
So those would be my closing
Okay.
remarks. Thank you very much. I've learned quite a bit too. Thank
Mm-hmm.
you.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, Mr. Komal Singh, and all the best.
Thank,
Have a great weekend. I
thank
think
you.
today Paul Chung, some relative died for Paul Chung, and
His brother passed away.
oh, his
Father
brother.
lost him. Yeah, he's in New York right now.
Yeah, I was supposed to go to the wake tonight, but
Yeah.
because of this program. Anyhow,
Yeah.
thank you all very much, and gentlemen, have a pleasant weekend.
Thank you
Until
all very
next.
Yeah.
much.
Thank you.
Pleasure.